Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our Weld Wellness series. We're here every Thursday at 12:30. Today, I'm here with Renee, our child specialist. And today, we kind of wanted to address some of the questions that have been asked of our team, but also some of the situations even we find ourselves in. And so talking to our children has been one of the top questions or areas where we've had individuals ask us for guidance. I myself am in that category. I am someone who has three children, all of which are in different age groups. So I have a high school student, a middle school student, and then an elementary school student. And so I find myself realizing that the message for my high school student is going to look very different than my message to my elementary school student. And that's just one of the many things, right, to consider when thinking about how we talk to our children about difficult subjects during difficult times.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm so glad that you're here with us today. Like Shauna said, I'm Renee, I'm the child specialist. And when I think about our kiddos, I get a lot of conversation with parents of what do I share with my kids? What makes it hard? Like Shauna, for you, you have kids who are older. Like you have one that's, getting ready to launch high school, looking towards more independence, middle schooler, getting their elementary child who's younger in elementary, like my son. Um, obviously how we speak to them and what we share with them is very different. I think the caveat to that is our kids have access to so much information.
Yes.
We cannot protect them from hearing, about things and people because of social media, because they have phones. Phones have internet.
Yes.
Internet has inaccurate information at times, accurate information at times. So I think it's healthy also to just have that conversation and that dialogue of, hey, as your parents, I want you to be informed, but I want you to get information from me. Don't believe everything that you hear and read and see.
Yes.
Navigating that is hard, right?
Absolutely.
But I also think too, we, as much as things are not normal and we're creating what looks to be a new normal, we've been at this for over a year at this point. And so we're, I always think about Fred Rogers, who says, look for the helpers. Okay. Our kids can be the helper. Our kids can, we can teach our kids to smile at the neighbor. We can teach our kids, a friendly wave at the postman, right? So our neighborhood mailbox is kitty corner to our home. And so we've gotten to know him. His name is Aaron. And my son will take him a bottle of water or leave a bottle of water, next to the mailbox. And that's just one little kind thing that we can do. But I think one thing that hasn't changed is those what I call emergent stressors, right? So maybe you have a sick relative that has had to go to the emergency room. How do we talk to our kids about that? Whether it's related to the coronavirus or not, that is something that our kids are experiencing. And the coronavirus, COVID, has changed how we interact with that. They aren't letting the whole family into the hospital anymore. Okay.
Right.
So we have to adapt to that. And we've seen our kids be resilient in that. They've experienced being at school, remote learning, being at school with some of their friends, remote learning, going back to school with everyone, socially distance, masks on the playground, like all of these things that our kids have experienced. So what you do say to your high schooler is going to sound different than what you say to your elementary kiddo.
Yes.
So I do have a few tips. Yes, be honest. The next thing is to validate their feelings. If they're feeling scared, recognize that and be like, you know what, I know I'm scared too that Uncle so and so is sick.
Yeah.
I'm sad also that I can't see grandma. And just kind of say those I feel statements are very appropriate regardless of the kiddo's age. Whether they're like your son who's, in high school, older, driving, approaching adulthood, or your first or second grader is going to be the same validation of like, I'm scared. I feel that way too.
Right.
The next thing that I think could be
You were rolling, so I was just going to let you keep going. You have great tips, so I
so
didn't mean.
the next thing, I'm a huge fan of art because sometimes our kids don't have the vocabulary yet to say, you know, I am worried about blank.
Mhm.
But they can use a notebook, a sketch pad. They can draw, or, you know, I know that we have a middle schooler. She's all about music. And so she will play music and we will know how she's feeling usually
Yep.
with that, right?
Right.
And so navigating that with them. Um, Another thing is provide those affirmations, but be careful. So if you have, a kiddo who has a sick elderly grandparent, be careful. I caution you to not make promises that you cannot keep. So if your, third grader, fourth grader is like, is grandma going to be all right? Be honest. If you don't know, say, I don't know.
And I love that you said that, Renee.
It's
I just
hard.
want to, yeah. And I think as parents, and I want to validate this, and just even going back to when kids tell us their feelings,
Mm-hmm.
typically as a parent, we want to find the solution, right?
Right.
Um, and sometimes it's okay to be vulnerable if you feel that that's what that is, right? With your kiddos, to say I don't know, and that's realistic. We're not supposed to have, it's not about having all the answers. It's about being a support.
Yep. Yeah. And with that comes it's like back to affirming their feelings. You know what? I don't know that Uncle so and so who's very sick. I don't know what is going to happen, and then just say what's happening. The doctors are, taking pictures of their body or doing some blood work. They sometimes people get medicine and they can get better, right? I know that we have an elderly person who lives in an assisted living facility. That person is 88 years old. We love that person, right? That's my husband's grandmother. But we also know that if something happened as an adult, I know that she's 88 years old and lived a fabulous life. She has taught kindergarten and first grade for 40 years, right? And so helping our kids process that is going to come in steps depending on what we know and what happens. As adults, we know that people do not live forever. The real world, right? Um, so I just caution you. Are you there, Shauna, still?
Oh, I gotcha. I think I lost you
Oh.
for a second.
So what I was saying is just be honest, but be cautious of what you say and what kind of commitment, depending on what that emergent situation is, right? And we see this with our pets too. Um, so just kind of navigate those waters carefully, I would advise. but also use tools like having them, if it is an elderly sick person, right? Having them just write down a little memory, maybe before the coronavirus, when we could all get together freely and not have to socially distance, and we could have gatherings at our house, have them talk about something they remember about that sick person when things were different. I don't know that it was better or worse. I just say different because we all have different feelings about it. But, have them write it down. I remember when my grandma used to pick me up every Thursday after school. That might be a thing, right?
Yeah.
Or I remember when my grandpa went fishing, or whatever it is with that person who is sick. The other thing is that, like I was saying, is, I really believe our kids can make a difference in our world and make it more positive and better. And so one thing that, I always have like little note cards. Okay. So we're giving kids power to bring a smile to someone's day. That's kind of how I see it. Is we can't visit them, but this is what we could do. We can mail them a card, right?
Yeah.
You might not be able to get into the hospital, but you could leave this and just say, I want to go by the rules, but could you take this to room, this person and this room number? That could be something. Or if they live far away, you might mail it to another relative nearby who can drop it off. Okay. But I have these like little note cards. You can use anything really, construction paper. And depending on, if they're younger, they might just draw a picture. If they're a little older, they might say, dear grandma, I am thinking about you. Love, Renee.
Yeah.
Okay. Because that can brighten someone's day. And also just kind of give those affirmations of, you know what, I'm listening and I hear you. I hear that you're worried about that person. But I think depending on what age, like if it's a high school person, I might have those more honest conversations of, if that person is sick and it doesn't look super amazing that they might get better, it might be okay to say that to an older person. I would not advise saying that to a younger child, a 7-year-old, right? I might just say, we're just waiting for the professionals and the medical people to tell us what's going on, but do you want to write something down, or do you want to record a message, right? With smartphones now, we can make a whole video and send it, right? To a loved one and say, we're thinking of you. We care for you.
I love that. Yeah.
I remember when, right?
Yeah.
Those are, because that's going to take that person, if they're sick, that person is also kind of possibly worried, thinking about how it's going to impact the family and things. So it might brighten their day to be thinking about fishing and making cookies or some of those more fun times. I think the biggest takeaway is to just be honest but cautious and not make those promises. And I think that as we all navigate what things look like, we still have that normalcy of life is still happening, especially within our community. We've had some tragedies, we've had hard times, and everyone collectively is experiencing, our kids especially, they've all been accustomed to birthday parties and bowling alleys and Summit. A lot of kids have parties that you might have something at your neighborhood park. But our older kids have a different way of processing those things. At the same time, they're experiencing those changes too, of not having some milestone celebrations that they're accustomed to having. And so as we navigate those things, conversations with kids are still happening. Our kids are still wondering, am I going to be able to have a birthday party this year? Am I going to be able to have a slumber party ever again? Am I going to be able to go here, go there, do this, do that? especially for some of our kids that have milestone things. Um,
Absolutely.
Quinceañeras, sweet
Yep.
16s, proms, graduations, those types of things, but also sports. That's still kind of, we're still trying to figure those things out. And it's
Yep.
important to help your kids navigate that. And it could be a conversation, but it also could be a note card. It could be a
Yeah.
drawing or a song, those types of things.
What comes to mind, as we share these tips is, even as a kid, I can't remember how many times I said to my parents, you just don't know or understand how I feel. And
Mhm.
so when we do take that moment to say, hey, I hear you saying you're frustrated,
Yep.
or you're upset, you're sad, you're mad, whatever emotion they're giving you, when you take that moment just to recognize it, not that it's going to change everything in the moment, but you're letting them know, hey, I am listening to you. And with that abundance of information that you shared that our kids are exposed to on the internet, um, I'm sure most parents are like me. I can talk to them all day long, but sometimes they're going to believe what they read on their phone over me. But the more that I have these conversations,
Yep.
and the more that I'm able to give those affirmations, recognize those emotions they provide, and have those conversations, the more trust I'm building.
Mhm.
Um, Hopefully, then when they get an abundance of information
Yep.
online or wherever they're getting it, then they feel more comfortable to come to me and
Yeah.
think, mom will give a good overview or give me a different viewpoint,
Yeah.
instead of just shutting us off like we worry
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. Well, one thing that we have done in our family, especially, we have a middle schooler as well. And we established several years ago a safe person and within like our social networking. And so if she didn't feel comfortable talking to us, she had permission to call one adult family friend within our social circle to talk about things. We just wanted her to have that because we recognize at this point we are the last people that she's going to want to talk to about certain things.
Yeah,
And so we kind of set that up just as a safety, uh, kind of a
I
safety
love that.
net, kind of something that she knew she didn't have to question if it was okay to call someone. Um, and so we kind of have implemented that during this time of it's okay to call, here's our guidelines, right? So set those boundaries up. And those are hard conversations too, because we had to call in a family friend to say, hey, our daughter is wanting to talk to somebody else and we're
Yeah,
fine with that. Are you comfortable?
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
But, you know, and that was more along the lines of like puberty and stuff like
yeah,
that, which is still happening. But,
yep.
COVID didn't stop that. But I think it's
No,
important that families kind of have, and that's back to something we've talked about in some other Weld Wellness not FaceTimes, Facebook Lives, is just that social networking piece, right?
yeah,
For support. And so I think these are some hard times to be a parent.
yeah,
Honestly, it's harder than any job I've ever had personally, but
yep.
um,
Mhm.
but together we will continue on, and I'm really glad that you joined us today. I know it was kind of chatty, and I'm sorry about our technical blurb there. But please reach out to us. We are here.
Yes.
We want to support you. We want to be a listening ear. We want to give advice if you're wanting it or needing it. The warm line is 970-347-2359. That number again is 970-347-2359. You can call it or text it. Shauna, do you want to share about how other ways that folks can
Yes.
connect with our program?
Yes, feel free to reach out to us on this platform via Facebook. You can also email us at colorado.spirit@northrange.org. Maybe you don't have kids. Maybe this conversation didn't relate. Whatever it is, we're here to support you. Give us a call. As Renee said, you can call us. If you prefer text, we just ask that you call so we can get that set up for you. Again, reach out via Facebook or email at colorado.spirit@northrange.org. We will be here again next week, same time, same place. Any final thoughts, Renee?
I don't think so. I just hope that you all know that we are here for you. And, our team is very diverse in what we're all doing. And so if you don't need my support per se, we have other folks who can support you depending on what your situation is. So just please reach out. We would love to help.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye. Have a great day.